recording this. So for some reason I can't get camera on. And unfortunately I don't have a way to fix that, which sucks. But I'm going to be ranking how normal I think the names of Homestuck trolls are. Like if you were just chilling and you were a person who had never consumed Homestuck, because obviously if you've read Homestuck and you meet someone on the street who's like, "What's up? My name is Friska," you're gonna be like, "Huh? Hmm? Your name is what?" This is partially inspired by Minerva at Eldana Doublecast on Twitter and YouTube and Tumblr, that she made a tweet. I think it was a tweet where she said that everyone she's met, every like trans person she's met who's named after a Homestuck character or who has the same name as a Homestuck character, it's never a coincidence. And I thought it makes sense for people to name themselves maybe after the kids because, the kids are named like John and Dave and Rose and Jane, and those are all very normal names. No one would bat an eye if you were like, "Hey, what's up? My name's Jake." Everyone's like, "Yeah, that's a name." But there were people in the comments who were named after some of the trolls, like not the regular kid names. And so I wanted to think about how you could get away with naming yourself after one of the trolls. So as you can see by down here, this is just the this is only like alpha and beta trolls, none of, Hive Swap or Friend Sim trolls, because that would be way too many names. So we're just gonna go down the line, and I might have to check my list because, admittedly, I honestly don't know a lot of the Alpha Trolls names because I'm not even close to there in Homestuck because I haven't read Homestuck in a year, and I never even made it that far. I think I made it to where like Terezi gets introduced, since I'm pretty sure she's the first troll. So let's start. So, Aradia. Oh yeah, and we're only doing first names, not last names, because anyone can have basically any last name, and like, no one would be like, "Wow, that's a incredibly freaky last name. What do you mean your last name is like Pyrope or something?" You just be like, "Alright, that's your name." So, Aradia. I'm gonna go ahead and put Aradia straight into this is totally fine. If I met someone named Aradia, honestly, I wouldn't even necessarily think that it had to be Homestuck. That's a normal name. It's pretty. It's fine. I wouldn't be surprised if someone came up with it themselves and didn't even know about Homestuck. Alright, next. Arrania. Now, very similar to Aradia, however, it's a little less conventional. So I'm going to put it in, you might get asked about it, you might not. Cronus. Alright, so this is kind of, the Cronus is an odd one, because it's not that weird, it's not completely made up, like, I'm sure most people would kind of draw the Greek mythology parallel. By the way, I am about to shift in my seat, and it is going to be really loud, thank you. Okay, so I feel like most people would make the Greek mythology connection, kind of, and be like, okay. But it's just weird enough that I think you will be asked. I don't think you would be mocked, because Cronus isn't like a bonkers name. But it's also Cronus. It's still weird. Damara, gonna put her straight into this is totally fine. Again, if I met someone named Damara, I would totally be like, that's a normal name. I don't even know if I would think about Homestuck first. Also, if I'm pronouncing any of these right, that sucks. I haven't spoken to someone about Homestuck since I was 12. So it's been a while. Equius. No! Horse! You're named after a horse. You will be mocked if your name is Horseman. Like, no. No, absolutely not. Aridin. It's not as weird as Equius because it doesn't have an immediate connotation of something funny, so I don't think you would get mocked for it. However, I also don't know. I'm kind of between these two categories because on one hand, I feel like it's not conventional sounding enough to go in this category, but also I honestly can't think if you would be asked about it. Like, it's not so weird, because to me, if you're getting asked about it, someone probably just thinks you have a name that's from, like, a different country. And they're like, oh, what country is that from? And I feel like if someone heard that you were named Aradia, they would just kind of assume you had a weird name. They wouldn't, like, assume that your parents named you a name from a different country. I'm saying this as an American, obviously. So I think I'm going to put it in, you might get asked about it, you might not. Feffery. That's a weird name. No bones about it. It's weird. It's not fine. I'm gonna say confusion, you will be asked, because it's pretty weird and it doesn't really follow any, like, conventional naming standards that I can think of. Gamzee. No. That's the name of a cartoon. You cannot be named Gamzee. Unacceptable. Absolutely not. If you walk in and your name is Gamzee, I'm not saying you'll be mocked, but people will come up with a different name for you because they're going to look you in the eyes and be like, I'm not calling you Gamzee. I'm not doing that. That is not a name. Okay, what's this one? Horus. All right, I had to think about Horus earlier because Horus is complicated. If you just pronounce it, it's a normal name. Horus is a normal name. However, it's not spelled like the traditional spelling of Horus, Horace. But in the modern days, it's not that weird to have a name that's like a different spelling. I was going to say misspelling, that's a little rude. A different spelling than the conventional spelling of a name. However, I still think you might get asked about it, because even if it is a normal name, it's also not like a common name in this day and age to be named Horus. Like, it's kind of an old-fashioned name, you know? Like, if your name is Gertrude, people aren't necessarily going to be like, whoa, that's really weird, like, to your face. But it's kind of a weird name. Okay, Kanaya. I'm going to put Kanaya in This Is Totally Fine. I feel like you could meet someone named Kanaya and be like, yeah, that sounds like a name. Like, a K sound is common, a Naya is common. Just putting them together, I'm sure there are people named Kanaya. And maybe it's spelled differently. But, like, there are definitely people named Kanaya out there in the world who aren't even necessarily named that way because of Homestuck. Cankry, you will be mocked. Canker sore. No. False. Absolutely not. If you walk into school and you say, my name is Cankry with 2 Ks, no. No. Carcat. Again, you will be mocked. Dumb name. I'm not judging these names as, like, names for characters, by the way. I'm not saying, like, hey, these names are bad for a fictional character. I'm saying if you as a real human person were like, hey, my name is Carcat, someone would be like, that's 2 nouns that you stuck together, and also you didn't spell either of them correctly. So no, you will be mocked. What's that one's name? I gotta check. Kerloz. No. You cannot be named Kerloz. That's a dumb name. Again, I don't know if it's one you would be mocked for. You maybe would, but it's so weird that, like, no. Your parents just wouldn't even consider it, and you wouldn't consider it. Like, if you're being named this as a baby, your parents would be like, we can't do this to our child. And if you're trans and you're picking your own name, you'd be like, that's too weird. I'm not naming myself Kerloz. Okay. What's your name? Latula. Okay. Alright. I don't want to make it obvious that, like, my pattern, I guess, is just names that end with an A. But to be fair, those are all decently conventional, right? Like, that's a pretty standard name convention. So, Latula. However, I don't think it's as normal as Damara or Kanaya or Aradia. So I'm going to put it in, you might get asked about it, you might not. Same with Arrania, where it's like kind of weird sounds than would usually be put together in a name. Like, all of those are very conventional kind of syllables that are in names. And Latula is like, interesting. Mina. I'm gonna put Mina in This Is Totally Fine. I know the spelling's like maybe a little different, but there's absolutely people who are named Mina. Like 100% there's someone out there in the world whose name is Mina. There's probably people in the world whose name is Mina spelled like Mina. Meenah. Like, it's not that weird. Mulin. I'm gonna put Mulin in... That's hard. I don't know if I'm that passionate that I would put it in You Can't Have This Name. But I don't know if you would be mocked for it, even though it kind of sounds like a cat, you know? I mean, that's obviously, that's intentional, you know? Her name sounds like a cat intentionally. But it's still a little weird to be named Mulin. But I feel like this might be a little too high. But, I'm not gonna say you will be mocked. I don't think that you would be mocked. I'm gonna put it in confusion. You will be asked, because I won't say that you can't have the name Mulin. Okay, Mituna. Alright. Mituna's interesting. It kind of sounds like a normal name that like a new age parent would come up with, but like a cooler one. Like, you know how all the names now are like Braxton, Maddox, Braylon, Braden, Hayden. You know, that's like every boy's name now. And it's all kind of variations of spellings, and it's like, oh, we're like modern parents. We're not naming our sons basic, boring names. We're naming them like Braxton. And it's like, all right, Tony, don't get too into yourself. So I feel like a more fun kind of couple that maybe wanted to name their child a more fun name, or just a trans person who was like, I want to have an interesting name. I feel like Mituna would be a choice that people would pick, but I am going to put it in You Might Get Asked About It, because I do think it's weird enough that you would potentially get questioned if your name is Mituna, especially if we're going strictly by like, if this is the gender of the same character. Like, if you're a girl named Mituna, you might not get questioned as much, but if you're like a guy named Mituna, you know what? Mituna's a good non-binary name. I feel like that's good. It's a good one. Nepeta, or Nepeta. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. I'm gonna say Nepeta because I don't want to talk about PETA on this channel. PETA! No, I also don't want to talk about Family Guy on this channel. I'll put it in confusion, because I don't think you would be mocked, because even though it is odd, I don't think it sounds enough like a dumb thing that you would be made fun of for it. Porim, you will be mocked. Your name sounds like porridge. Little porridge girl. That's your name. Terrible. Who's this one? Okay, this is Rufio. Which, again, Rufio is kind of a normal name. Like, there's definitely some people out there named Rufio. I mean, it's kind of unconventional, but it's not unheard of. It's not ridiculous. If you came up to me and your name was Rufio, I'd be like, all right, man, cool. So, Rufio gets to be the first guy in the This Is Totally Fine category. Also, I love that some of these images are very different scales. Like, look how little Kerloz is compared to, like, Mituna. Look how little. Solux. I also had kind of a think about Solux, because I'm not going to put it in This Is Totally Fine. It's not totally fine to be named Solux. But am I so bold as to say you cannot have this name? I'm not sure I am, because Sol, sun, solar, and people like, to use those kind of prefixes, Sol and Moon, sun and moon. So it wouldn't be ridiculous. And honestly, if you take both of the parts of Solix's name and you separate them, that's like pretty normal. Like those aren't really weird kind of things to have in your name, Sol and Lux. But when you put them together, it's like interesting. I'm not yawning because I'm bored. I'm yawning because I'm tired and I'm hungry. It's a good thing we're getting to the end of this. I'm gonna say confusion, you will probably be asked. Tavros. Again, Tavros is an interesting one. You can't. Ooh, I border on. Sup, I'm Tavros. No, that's too weird. That's too weird. It can't. I was thinking maybe orange, but no, it's way too weird to go in orange. And Tavros, you will be asked. But would you be mocked for being named Tavros? Because the fortunate thing is that a Homestuck, I don't know if it has quite enough cultural relevancy to people outside of like specific groups that you wouldn't be mocked just for being named after someone from Homestuck. Like that's not enough of a reason to get mocked, Because most people don't know who Friska is. Most people are unaware of her and the things that she has done. So you're probably good. Well, I don't know what you're good about, so I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, I mean, you're probably good of like you're not gonna get mocked just for having a Homestuck name. You're gonna get mocked if the name that you have is a weird Homestuck name. And is Tavros a weird Homestuck name? Great question. I I kind of feel like it is. There's something about it that I don't want to put it in confusion. You will be asked. I know maybe it seems like I'm harsh, but Tavros. The more you say it, the worse it gets. I'm gonna be bold. You can't have that name. You can't be named Tavros. Terezi. Again, very weird sounds for a name. Very unconventional. Is it unconventional enough that it could go in one of the lower tiers, though? I don't think you would be mocked for it. I don't think you would be mocked. But it's definitely not totally fine. But you get asked, is there anyone who you're going to say, my name is Terezi, and they're not going to question you? You know what? I think you could, because I think Terezi could probably moonlight as like a name from a different country that someone just doesn't know, and they don't want to be offensive and be like, your name's Terezi? It's kind of weird, you know? They don't want to be a jerk. I guess I'm assuming that good people are asking you these questions. Friska, no. Not even by virtue of the quality of the name Friska, but it's Friska. You can't. Do I want to be nice and be fair and say no? I'm sticking to my guns. You can't be named Friska. And I know I'm saying this knowing for a fact that in Minerva's comments there's a person whose name is Friska. And I get that, and I'm not judging them, because Friska, it's not a bad name, but there's something about it that I can't get over. Just being named Friska. I can't do it. It's too weird. I'm sorry. Sorry to all the Friskas out there. So all the names that I think most people would not question you about are Aradia, Damara, Kanaya, Mina, and Rufio. Alright. Great. We've done some good things. How do I quit my recording?